Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining. So I have a Craftsman Lawn Tractor. I think it's an 18 horse. You'll see it in the video. And also Club Cadets, and I think Troy Builts. There are a few other brands that are basically the same tractor with the Briggs and Stratton engine. In any event, that's what I have. And at the end of last season, I was having a problem where the engine was hard starting. I would turn the key and it seemed that it was binding up. It would turn like a quarter of a turn and then stop. And I'd turn the key again and it would kind of go a quarter of a turn and then stop. As a matter of fact, let me show you. This is what it looks like. So that's it. I didn't know why it was doing this, but in any event, I put the lawnmower away for the wintertime. I took the battery out and stored it for the winter, put a battery minder on it. And when I took it out this spring, same exact problem. Turn the key, it goes a little bit, and it would stop. It's funny, I could get it started if when it was doing this, I had work gloves on, and I would turn the key, and then I'd kind of put my finger at the top of that screen, flywheel screen, whatever you call it, and I'd try to help it along, and it would start. But again, it was getting harder and harder to do that, and obviously I figured there was some kind of a problem. So I had to figure out what it was. I eliminated the battery as a problem right away because, as I mentioned, I took it out of the engine, out of the lawn tractor in the fall, and I kept it in the house with a battery minder. The battery was fine. It was right up to the amperage was fine. The voltage was fine. So it wasn't that. The next thing I thought of is maybe, as a car guy, you're supposed to know how to take care of your engines. But I really neglected this engine. I should have been changing the oil every year and the oil and filter, but I wasn't. So the oil was really dirty. So could it have gotten gummed up inside the engine and that been the problem? So this spring, I emptied out a little of the oil and I put kerosene. This is real old school. I put kerosene in the oil. I ran the engine for about 5 minutes to really clean out the gunk and so forth. And then I emptied all that out, put fresh oil and a filter in, and that didn't help it. So the next thing I thought of was 2 seasons ago, when I took the tractor out of the shed, there was a bunch of sort of mouse nest stuff hanging out of the engine cover. So I took it apart, and sure enough, some mice or a mouse had made a nest in there, and I thought maybe that was somehow binding it up, but that was not the case this year. Lastly, I thought, could it be the starter motor? Is the starter motor on its way out? Is it, you hit the key and it's using too much voltage or amperage really, and it not working, and they're not that expensive. So I was thinking, well, maybe I should just get a new one and replace it. But before I did that, of course, I checked online to see what other problems it could be, and I saw that it could be a valve adjustment. And I didn't even realize that you could do or would need to do a valve adjustment on a lawn tractor. But sure enough, that was one of the solutions for a very similar problem. I saw people, had done videos and posts about the same exact problem where it was binding up. And it basically said if the valves are out of adjustment, it causes too much compression when you're trying to start it, and that prevents it from going. So I also saw another post and video about possibly having to replace the cam. And there was no way I was going to break down this engine and spend hours replacing the cam on this engine. So of course, even if you're going to replace the cam, you're going to want to try the valve adjustment first. Sure enough, that's what I did. And spoiler alert, but of course, this is why I want you to watch the video. It worked when I did the valve adjustment. It's not that hard to do. And it starts up instantly now. It runs great. That was the problem. That was the fix. So this video is how to do that and hopefully how to fix your problem. And here we go. So the first thing we're going to have to do, obviously, is take the engine cover off so we can access the engine and the valves. And before we actually take the valve cover off, we're going to take the spark plug out. And we're going to try to turn the engine with the spark plug out to see if there's anything else binding the engine, or if it was the unadjusted valves creating too much compression, and that is what was causing the binding. So that's what we're going to see. We're going to take the spark plug out, and then we're going to try to start it. Well, not actually try to start. We're going to try to turn the engine over. It's obviously not going to start with the spark plug out. So let's check this out. So that's proof that there's nothing mechanically binding the engine. It is the compression. So now we're going to take the valve cover off. They're four 3/8 inch bolts that are holding this valve cover on. So the 3/8 inch socket, we'll take that right off. And we'll speed things up a little bit to take this cover off. Now that the cover is a little loose, there's a little oil dripping out, which is to be expected. So I'm going to stick an old oily rag under here to catch any oil drips. And we'll finish getting these bolts off with bionic speed. As I'm doing this, I should have really put in the sound effect of an air wrench. And there are the rocker arms. Getting a different angle here, make it a little easier to see. Now, what I'm doing here, you can do this with a screwdriver. I'm using a socket extension. We're pushing that right up against the piston because we need to get this at top dead center. And there's basically more than one top dead center depending on which part of the stroke, the engine stroke, we're in. And we need to get it at top dead center on the compression stroke. And it's actually, when you get it to top dead center, when you're rotating the engine, it comes up to top dead center, and then you're really supposed to go about 1/4 of an inch past top dead center. And that's where you want it to be. And you're going to know you're on that compression stroke once you get there by jiggling those rocker arms, and they should be loose because that means the valves are closed. So we are in a good spot. That's where we want to be to make the adjustment. And again, there we are. That's a Torx T20, and that's how we're going to loosen the adjuster. So we're going to get that loose, and then we're going to take a 10mm wrench to actually make the adjustment. Now the top one that we're working on now is the exhaust valve, and it should be between 0.005 and 0.07 of an inch, so that's what, 10 1/1000. I think that's between 5 1/1000 and 7 1/1000 of an inch. So we want to get it right in between there. Once we get it where we want it, we take that Torx T20 and lock it back down. So you want to hold the adjustment right where you had it, correct, with the 10mm wrench, and then tighten the T20 Torx to get that locked in place. And now we're going to work on the bottom side, which is the intake valve, and that's a slightly different adjustment. It is 0.003 to 0.005, so it's between 3 1/1000 and 5 1/1000 of an inch. And as you can see, I've got all three gauges here: 0.003, 0.004, and 0.005. And I'm going to start off with 003. Get that adjusted just right. And tighten that down. Once again, holding it with the 10mm wrench, and then using the Torx T20 to lock it in place. And just to make sure, I'm going to take those three feeler gauges again. I'm going to start off with the 003, goes through fine. 004 is a little tight. 005 is really tight. So we know we've got it just right. It's right in between there, just the way we want it. And now that the valve adjustment is complete, I'm just going to make sure I'm clean the mating surface. Make sure that seals well. We don't want to have any oil leaks once we're done and we have the engine running. So just want to make sure that's nice and clean. And the gasket's in really good shape, so I didn't need to replace that. Just, again, want to clean it up, wipe it down, and get that back in place. Putting the bolts back on that hold the valve cover down. And again, these are 3/8 inch bolts. And when you're tightening it down, don't tighten it down too much, just firm. You've got a lot of aluminum parts here. You can easily warp them or break parts off. So again, you just want to tighten it down just firm. Doesn't need to be much more than that. And we're going to need the spark plug to start the engine again. Not going to be able to run it without that. So might be a good time if you haven't recently to replace the spark plug. These aren't that expensive. And same thing as with the valve cover bolts. You don't have to kill it when you tighten the spark plug down. Just get it nice and firm. And that should do it. And we're ready to go.
Success.
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 So that's it. I hope this was helpful. Just got to get the engine cover back on, and off we go. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time on the VOF Zone. Take care.